Hi, I'm Bodie Pendus, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to turn this nice classic black bedside nightstand into a nightstand for a 6-year-old. Making the jaws was one of the first tasks I undertook. I just glued 3 pieces of board together to get me a little bit of width, and I shaped it on the bandsaw to get an opening of a jaw. Later I'll attach the teeth to it. Alright, so I've cut my piece out on the bandsaw and I have it in here. And I have these layers in here. I'm trying to build this up. This is the bottom jaw of the mouth of the dinosaur. And this is going to be the lip. So I'm going to put 2 or 3 of these bands around here to build up that lip, and the teeth will go behind it. All right, now I'm gonna make a tongue out of this piece of Brazilian redwood flooring. After many weeks of researching the actual sizes and dimensions of a dinosaur's tongue, I very precisely committed it to scale to be able to create a dinosaur tongue. Well, that looks like a tongue to me. So I had some scrap walnut. It was about 1 inch thick, kind of warped and wobbly, but it was perfect for making a couple of dinosaur feet. So you just kind of drew with a little chalk around there. Best guess at what a dinosaur foot would look like for this monster I'm making, and just cut it out, and we'll sand it later smooth, be flat on the bottom, because these will attach to the leg on the bottom of our nightstand cabinet. Alright, so I have these 2 pieces of spalted pecan that I'm going to make for the eyes, and for the eyeballs I have these 2 pieces of walnut that I'm going to shape round and then put a little iris right here in the middle for the eyes. So let's get the shape in these eyeballs. So I take them over to the bandsaw and I cut a couple of circles out, and then I take them over to my sander, which is an attachment on the drill press, and just sand the dickens out of them and just get some sort of shape to kind of round over the edges to where they'd look kind of like what a dinosaur's eyeball would look like. So here's the eyeball, and that's going to be the iris that goes in the eyeball. But it's too thick, so I got to cut it in half. I'm going to do that on the bandsaw. Trick is, how do you do that without cutting your fingers off? I have an idea. Let me show you. That worked pretty good. Exactly what we're looking for. Let's try another one. There we go. 2 irises for our eyeballs. Now, as you can imagine, I spent most of the time making teeth. There was going to be a lot of teeth, and I just had a concept of how to do this, and I said, these dinosaurs, particularly this T-Rex, has lots and lots of teeth. So I just started cranking them out and making the teeth. That was my first part of it. But lo and behold, I decided less was more eventually, and so I had plenty to use for my choices. So to try to shape them and give them a somewhat of a point, but not too sharp of a point, because 6- and 4-year-old boys can hurt themselves pretty easily. So I just give them a little bit of a shaping on my sander, and that was good enough. And then I end up cutting them to size. Somewhere between 4 and 6 inches was the right length. So here's our cabinet I'm building for a nightstand. But let me show you what we have. We have the top cut with a back rabbet on here, so receive the back. We have 2 sides with the bottom, and the bottom is dadoed into the sides. This is the face frame that we're going to build and attach to the front of it. Each of these is 2 inches wide, except for the bottom, which is 4 inches. And the reason this is 4 inches is because the bottom cabinet has an offset of about 3.5 inches, and that's so we can hide the legs underneath it. So we'll attach the legs underneath there, and you won't see that.
So the best way to attach the face frame to itself is pocket hole screws. Makes for a nice smooth connection and fast enough for joinery, so I'll put 2 screws for each of the connections.
This is a situation that fits perfectly into the advantages of my Roubo style workbench.
After taking out the board for the split Roubo, I can use the back side of that to clamp my pieces to hold down for the pocket hole screws. Sure makes it nice.
Okay, one completed face frame. So with that, we're ready to assemble the carcass.
So I use a number of clamps to attach my face frame to the cabinet so I can prepare to glue it and to tack it in place.
Just to wrap it up and keep it secure when it dries, add a couple of brad nails in here. So now I'm going to make the drawer runners. This is the one that's going to go in between the drawers. So it's going to be a bottom runner for the top drawer and a top runner for the bottom drawer. So we're going to mark it underneath here. This is the length of that. So now we're going to go cut that. Here's my 2 drawer guides. And so you can see that that's how it's going to slide in and out. This will go on this side and that will be the right side. So here's our piece for the bottom, except we don't really need it this thick. We want to have a little bit of a rise coming up here, but we don't need the bottom to be all the way out. So we only really need about 3/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch to come out here and the rest up. So first thing I'm going to do is cut this in half to be able to make a piece for both the left side and the right side. Bottom runner, and there's the middle shelf dual runner. So this runner is going to fit just like this up against the edge of the frame, and then we'll have about a 3/8 here for this to run on. The other side, the same way. Fits flush underneath there.
So the bottom runners are glued and brad nailed in place. So here I am painting the cabinet. You can tell this is prehistoric black. And we have all this cabinet painted to match some other furniture that we built, our 4-posted bed in particular.
Very simple drawer construction. I'm going to glue this edge and brad nail this in. But what I'm going to also do is I'm going to cut a rabbet in the bottom for a panel that'll help square this up.
To cut the rabbets on all the sides for the drawer, I get out my sacrificial fence and put it on the table saw so I can cut right up next to it, and then move it over to get the cut just the right width. So having the rabbet around all the edges of the sides make it easy for assembly, so when you drop in the bottom panel, you know you can square it up with the little side pressure from the clamps. This is the drawer front. I have 2 of those cut out of some recycled maple, and I'm putting a 3/4 inch round over to give it a nice smooth feel around all the edges.
So these are the dinosaur feet. So I have this one here that's got a little unevenness, so I'm gonna have to sand this to get it flat. And the reason I'm doing that, I'm gonna attach these legs to it in this fashion. I'm gonna have to cut these off by the thickness of this so the total height will match the back legs. So once we do that, we'll just drill a hole through here and screw that in, and that'll be the front feet.
So we'll get out my magical dust maker, and I create some dust and get these feet flat enough to attach the legs. So here I am marking where the legs are going to be placed on the bottom of the cabinet, about 1.5 inches from the corners, and I get out my calipers to measure the width of that for my drill bit, so the little stud part of these fixtures will recess up into the cabinet, and very simply just screw those in.
So in determining the distance here, all I'm doing is taking my calipers and knowing that that's the distance there. I don't even need to have a measurement. And I'm going to transfer that mark over to here. And I'm going to put it at several spots around here. And then I'll be able to draw a line between these marks.
So I just go over to the bandsaw, and based upon where I marked on each of the legs, I just slice off that amount to be able to get the legs flush to be the same height as the back legs. Each tooth was attached with a screw from the underside of the jaw.
Okay, so I got these dinosaur teeth. I'm going to drill everything from the underside.
So I'm drilling the tongue in now, and I put a couple of screws in there to hold it in. Check the alignment. Then I proceed to drill each of the teeth. I put screws in the bottom. I pre-drilled a hole in each of the teeth to be able to receive the screw from the bottom. Make sure we had a nice attachment.
So this is the upper jaw of our dinosaur drawer. But I decided it really needed something like a nose, like some nostrils. So I decided I'm going to add that. But to make it more menacing, I'm actually going to make my nostrils out of walnut.
So back to the bandsaw I went to cut out some nostrils and shape those up, make it nice looking and mean and nasty and gooey. To complete the assembly of the nightstand, I took each of the drawers out and I put holes from the back of the drawer through to attach the jaws which had the teeth on it. So each of these was clamped on and screwed from the back.
And here we go, Mr. Dinosaur Night Stand. Made with dinosaur eyeballs, nostrils, and teeth, and tongue, and of course you can't forget the feet. This was a monster of a build, pun intended. So if you liked our video on how to build a dinosaur nightstand, and who wouldn't, if it brought a little smile to your face, wish you had one of these, or wish you could build one for someone you love, be sure and give me a thumbs up. Want to see more of our builds? Consider subscribing down below. And as usual, come back and see me real soon.